New York City. It is a metropolis of mythic proportions, a vertical forest of steel and glass that scrapes the sky. Its streets thrum with the relentless energy of millions, a symphony of ambition, art, and commerce. But this city, the one we see, is only the latest draft of a story written over centuries. Beneath the gleaming pavement and the rumbling subway cars lies another New York, a city of shadows and secrets, of forgotten histories and restless spirits. Every borough, every block, is built upon layers of the past: Dutch farmsteads, potter's fields, bloody battlegrounds, and the lost dreams of countless souls. These layers don't always lie dormant. They breathe, they whisper, they send tendrils of the uncanny up through the grates and into the air. Legends lurk in the city's dark corners, in the echoing tunnels far below ground, and behind the elegant facades of its oldest buildings. They are the city's true folklore, tales of monsters and ghosts, of buried treasure and phantom trains, that remind us that the concrete jungle has roots that run deeper and darker than we can possibly imagine. Our journey into this hidden world begins not on the street, but below it, in the murky, winding sewers, where a story took root and refused to let go. The legend is as much a part of New York as the yellow cab. It begins, as many stories do, with a vacation to Florida. A family buys a baby alligator, a cute palm-sized novelty. But back home in the cold reality of a cramped city apartment, the novelty wears off. The creature grows, its appetite becomes a problem, and with a heavy heart, the family makes a decision. A final goodbye, a flush of the toilet, and the problem is washed away into the vast, dark labyrinth of the New York City sewer system. There, in the subterranean warmth, surrounded by a buffet of refuse, the alligator doesn't just survive, it thrives. It grows to monstrous proportions, its skin bleached white from the lack of sunlight, its eyes glowing in the gloom. This tale has been told for nearly a century, but it solidified in the public consciousness in 1935, when a sanitation superintendent named Teddy May gave a startling interview. He spoke of his men encountering gators, some as long as 6 feet, in the storm drains of the Bronx and East Harlem, hunting them with .22 caliber rifles. While many have since dismissed May's account as a tall tale, the legend became an unshakable piece of urban folklore. It speaks to a primal fear that the wilderness we paved over can re-emerge from the depths, that monstrous things adapt and endure right under our feet. Today, though no official colony has ever been confirmed, the sewer gator lives on, a symbol of the untamable life that lurks just beneath the surface of the civilized world. While alligators might be the most famous denizens of the city's underworld, another more human legend dwells in the darkness of the subway tunnels. They are the mole people. The term conjures images from science fiction, a pale subterranean race, hostile to the surface world. The reality and the legend it spawned is more complex and tragic. In the 1980s and 90s, thousands of homeless New Yorkers found refuge in the city's vast network of abandoned and active subway tunnels. The most famous of these subterranean settlements was in the Freedom Tunnel, a 2.5-mile stretch of track running under Riverside Park on the Upper West Side. Journalist Jennifer Toth's 1993 book, The Mole People: Life in the Tunnels Beneath New York City, chronicled these communities, describing makeshift homes, built from scrap wood and cardboard, illuminated by scavenged electricity. But her accounts also blurred the line between fact and folklore, speaking of sprawling, multi-level communities and a king who ruled the lowest, darkest depths. This image captured the public imagination, transforming a desperate homeless population into a mysterious underground society. In 1996, Amtrak cleared the Freedom Tunnel to reopen the track line evicting the last of its residents. Today, the tunnel is known more for the ghostly graffiti art that still covers its walls. But the legend of the Mole People persists, a chilling folk memory of a city within a city, a reminder of the thousands who have lived, and perhaps still live, in the darkness just a few feet beneath the rush of daily commuters. From the grit of the tunnels, we rise to the glamour and ghosts of Broadway. The New Amsterdam Theater on 42nd Street is one of the grandest temples of American entertainment, once home to the spectacular Ziegfeld Follies. It was here that a beautiful chorus girl named Olive Thomas began her meteoric rise to fame in the 1910s. Dubbed the most beautiful girl in the world, she captivated audiences and eventually Hollywood, becoming a silent film star. She married Jack Pickford, the troubled brother of screen legend Mary Pickford, and their life was a whirlwind of parties and passion. But in 1920, during a second honeymoon trip to Paris, tragedy struck. After a night of carousing, Olive ingested a lethal dose of mercury bichloride, a solution prescribed to her husband for his chronic syphilis. Her death at age 25 was ruled an accident, but rumors of suicide or even murder have swirled ever since. Soon after, her spirit seemingly returned to the place she loved most. For a century, stagehands, actors, and maintenance workers at the New Amsterdam have reported seeing the ghost of Olive Thomas. She appears in her full Follies costume, complete with a sash of green beads and holding a blue bottle, believed to be the one that contained the poison. She is not a terrifying spirit. She is said to be flirtatious, sometimes waving at the living or blowing kisses from the stage. She is Broadway's most beloved ghost, a shimmering, tragic reminder of the jazz age, her youthful spirit forever bound to the footlights and the fading applause. Not all of New York's spirits are so benign. A short journey downtown to Greenwich Village leads to a handsome brownstone at 14 West 10th Street. To passers-by, it is just another beautiful home on a quiet, tree-lined block. But to those who know its history, it is the House of Death. The building's paranormal reputation began with one of its most famous residents, Mark Twain, who lived there from 1900 to 1901. Long after his death, residents reported seeing the ghost of the celebrated author, a spectral figure in a white suit standing near the staircase. But the house's gentle haunting took a horrific turn in the 1980s. It was the home of Joel Steinberg, a criminal defense attorney, and his partner, Hedda Nussbaum. In 1987, the city was shocked by a crime of unimaginable cruelty that occurred within its walls. Steinberg beat their illegally adopted 6-year-old daughter, Lisa, into a coma from which she would never wake. The horrific details that emerged during the trial painted a picture of a home filled not with spectral energy, but with real, monstrous evil. Since then, the nature of the reported hauntings has changed. Visitors and psychics claim to feel a palpable sense of sorrow and malevolence. The ghost of Mark Twain is now just one of up to 22 spirits said to reside there, their presence forever colored by the real-life tragedy of Lisa Steinberg. The House of Death stands as a chilling monument to the idea that some places are not just haunted by ghosts, but are sick with the memory of human darkness. The city's darkness extends deep underground into the very veins of its transit system. The New York City subway is a world unto itself, a 24-hour city beneath the city, filled with living commuters and, according to legend, the dead. One of its most enduring ghost stories belongs to a station that no longer exists for the public, the Worth Street station on the Lexington Avenue line. Closed in 1962 due to the lengthening of the platforms at the adjacent Brooklyn Bridge station, its tiled walls and decaying signs were sealed off, visible only as a flicker of darkness from the windows of passing 4, 5, and 6 trains. It is from this abandoned place that the legend of the ghost train emerges. Transit workers and the occasional urban explorer tell of a phantom train that sometimes rumbles through the forgotten station late at night. It's not a modern subway car, but an antique one, perhaps from the early 20th century, its lights dim and flickering. Through its grimy windows they glimpse ghostly passengers in period dress, their faces pale and gaunt, staring blankly ahead as the train hurtles down a track that should be empty, its mournful whistle echoing through the tunnels before it vanishes into thin air. There is no historical tragedy tied to the station, no great disaster to explain the spectral locomotive. It is a pure ghost story, born from the eerie liminal space of the subway's abandoned corners, a chilling tale of a train whose final destination is eternity. Some of the city's ghosts are not anonymous passengers, but its very founders, men who stamped their identity onto the island of Manhattan so forcefully that their spirits refuse to leave. In the heart of the East Village, at Seine, Mark's Church in the Bowery, lies the final resting place of Peter Stuyvesant, the last Dutch Director General of New Amsterdam. Stuyvesant was a formidable figure, a fiery autocratic leader who ruled the colony with an iron will and a wooden leg, having lost his right leg to a cannonball. When the English fleet arrived in 1664 to claim the colony, Stuyvesant wanted to fight, but was overruled by his citizens. He surrendered the city, which was renamed New York, and retired to his farm, or Bowery, on which the church now stands. But according to legend, his stubborn spirit never accepted defeat. For centuries, parishioners and sextons have reported strange occurrences at St. Mark's. They hear the distinct, rhythmic thump-drag of his peg leg echoing on the church's stone floor. On quiet nights, the church bells have been known to ring on their own, a furious, discordant clang believed to be Stuyvesant's spirit, expressing its eternal rage at losing his city. His is not a sad haunting, but an angry one. He is the ghost of old New Amsterdam, a cantankerous, spectral landowner stomping through the centuries, forever protesting the city that grew up around his grave. From the heart of Manhattan, we travel across the water to Staten Island, where a childish boogeyman story took on the horrifying shape of reality. For generations, children in the borough were warned away from the decaying ruins of the old Seaview Hospital and the sprawling grounds of the Willowbrook State School with a terrifying name, Cropsey. He was a phantom with a hook for a hand, an escaped mental patient who would snatch children who wandered too far from home. It was a standard campfire tale, a local ghoul designed to keep kids in line. Then in the 1970s and 80s, the fiction bled into fact. A series of children began to disappear from the area around Willowbrook, a state-run institution for children with intellectual disabilities that had been exposed in 1972 as a snake pit of horrific abuse and neglect. The disappearances instilled a very real terror in the community. The boogeyman was real. The prime suspect was a man named Andre Rand, a former Willowbrook employee who lived a transient life in the woods and tunnels surrounding the institution. Though convicted for the kidnapping of 2 children, he was long suspected in several other disappearances. The Cropsey legend had provided the perfect cover for a real-life monster. The story serves as a chilling example of how folklore can become a dark reflection of reality, a boogeyman tale given terrifying flesh and blood by the very real horrors that took place in the shadows of a neglected institution. Not all of New York's buried secrets are ghosts or monsters. Some are far more tangible, promising riches beyond imagination. The legend of Captain Kidd's treasure is one of the oldest and most alluring in the city's history. William Kidd was a Scottish sailor commissioned by the English as a privateer in the late 1690s to hunt pirates in the Indian Ocean. But the line between privateer and pirate was thin, and Kidd crossed it. He amassed a fortune attacking ships, but when he returned to the American colonies, he was a wanted man. Before his arrest in Boston in 1699 and his eventual execution in London, Kidd allegedly managed to bury his vast treasure in a number of secret locations. While Gardiner's Island, off the eastern tip of Long Island, is the only place where a portion of his loot was verifiably found, legend insists that the bulk of it remains hidden, and many of those legends point directly to New York City. Tales were told of chests of gold and jewels buried on Liberty Island, then known as Bedloe's Island, or in the marshy lands of Lower Manhattan. For centuries, treasure hunters have searched, poring over dubious maps and digging speculative holes. Even today, the legend persists. It's a tale that taps into the city's very DNA, a story of global trade, ruthless ambition, and the tantalizing idea that beneath the concrete and finance, a pirate's fortune is just waiting to be discovered. From buried gold, we turn to social climbing and a ghost of relentless ambition. In Washington Heights, overlooking the Harlem River, stands the Morris Jumel Mansion, Manhattan's oldest surviving house. Built in 1765, it served briefly as George Washington's headquarters during the Revolutionary War, but its most famous and most spectral resident was Eliza Jumel. Born into poverty and rumored to have worked in a brothel, Eliza used her stunning beauty and sharp intellect to climb the social ladder, eventually marrying a wealthy French wine merchant, Stephen Jumel. After his death, the widowed Eliza, then in her 50s, scandalized society again by marrying the disgraced former vice president, Aaron Burr. The marriage was a disaster, and she spent her later years as a wealthy, eccentric, and lonely recluse in the mansion. After her death in 1865, it seems her formidable spirit refused to leave. She is perhaps New York's most frequently cited ghost. Staff, visitors, and even groups of schoolchildren on field trips have reported seeing her, a tall, imposing woman in a white or violet dress, her hand on her lips as if to shush the noisy intruders in her home. She has been seen on the balcony, staring out towards the river, and her angry specter has been blamed for knocking over furniture. Hers is the ghost of pure, unadulterated will, a woman who fought her way to the top and who, even in death, refuses to give up her hard-won territory. Some hauntings are not of a single spirit, but of a place so iconic it acts as a magnet for spectral energy in modern tragedy. The Dakota, the grand Gothic apartment building on the corner of 72nd Street and Central Park West, has long been a home to celebrities and shrouded in an air of mystery. Even before its most famous tragedy, the building had a reputation for being haunted. Residents spoke of seeing the ghost of a young girl in a yellow dress, bouncing a ball in the hallways, and a male figure with the face of a young boy, but the body of an adult, known as the Crying Man, whose phantom sobs echoed in empty rooms. But on the night of December 8th, 1980, the Dakota became the site of a tragedy that shocked the world and created a new, indelible legend. John Lennon, one of the most beloved musicians in history, was murdered in the building's archway. Soon after, the stories began. His widow, Yoko Ono, claimed to have seen his ghost sitting at his white piano, telling her, "Don't be afraid, I am still with you." Others have reported seeing his spectral figure standing in the very archway where he took his last breath. The Dakota's haunting is a powerful fusion of the old and the new, a place where Gilded Age phantoms now share their spectral space with the ghost of a 20th century icon, his tragic death forever woven into the fabric of the building and the city itself. Not all hauntings are so dramatic. Some are quiet, melancholic, and deeply personal, preserved like a fly in amber. On East 4th Street in NoHo sits the Merchant's House Museum, a time capsule of 19th century New York life. Built in 1832, it was home to the Treadwell family for nearly 100 years. The last family member to live there was the youngest daughter, Gertrude, who was born in the house in 1840 and died in the same bed in 1933, a 93-year-old spinster who had rarely left her home. The house was immediately turned into a museum, its furnishings and the family's personal belongings left exactly as they were. And it seems Gertrude never left either. Her spirit is said to be one of the city's most reliable, if shy, ghosts. Staff and visitors have reported the scent of her perfume, the sound of her playing the family's 1831 pianoforte, and the faint rustle of her dress on the staircase. She is most often seen as a fleeting glimpse, a slender woman in dark, old-fashioned clothing, moving quietly through the rooms of her life. Unlike the angry Stuyvesant or the imperious Eliza Jumel, Gertrude's ghost is a portrait of quiet loneliness, a woman so bound to her home and her era that she remains there still, a silent, enduring presence in a house where time, for her, truly stopped, a poignant whisper from a New York that has long since vanished. Our final story returns us to Staten Island, to a place where family tragedy and modern horror have combined to create one of the city's most unsettling legends. On a hill overlooking the Arthur Kill Waterway stands the gloomy Gothic Kreischer Mansion. It was one of two identical mansions built in 1885 by brick magnate Balthasar Kreischer for his sons, Charles and Edward. While Charles's family thrived, Edward's was plagued by misfortune. When the family's brick factory burned down, a distraught Edward took his own life inside his mansion. From that tragedy, the ghost stories began. For decades, locals whispered of strange lights in the abandoned house, the sound of a woman weeping, believed to be Edward's widow, and the spectral figure of a man seen in the upper windows. The mansion became a notorious haunted house, a place of sorrow and spectral whispers. Then in 2005, the house's dark reputation was sealed in blood. The mansion's caretaker, a man named Joseph Young, was hired by the Bonanno crime family to carry out a mob execution. He murdered a man named Robert McKelvey in the house, dismembering the body and burning the remains in the basement furnace. The real-life horror dwarfed any ghost story, cementing the Kreischer Mansion's legacy as a place of profound darkness. Today it stands as a monument to intertwined tragedies, where the sorrowful ghosts of the 19th century now share their haunted home with the violent, gruesome echoes of a modern crime. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden folklore and chilling legends of New York City, please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories from the forgotten corners of history. We'll see you in the next one.